Alright, this wasn't even set up right. But up here on top, this should go to the bottom of the motor. Now, if I have these caps open, right, this thing is trying to create a vacuum. Can it create a vacuum? No. Okay, so if I turn this on, I turn this up, okay, it can't, you can see it's stuck way down here, right? Now, I can tap this over and it'll start to go up and create that vacuum, and that's what it's measuring as actual vacuum. Did you guys see the needle move? Okay. On your checkoff sheet, it's going to say something about checking the vacuum. Alright? If I stick this on here on the patient connected side, alright? Tandem means you're connecting multiple canisters together. So if you had to do that for like chest tubes or something like that, you'd have another tube going from one to another. We don't have to worry about that. All you guys have to worry about is the one that says patient on it, and then all the other caps are closed. Alright, so now look, I have this on here, and it's getting a reading. Earlier it wasn't. When I took this tubing off, the reading was down at like 0, right? Can you guys see this needle? Yeah? And so the needle, if you were able to see the numbers, it's somewhere between 110 and 120. And we said we want the suction at 110 to 120, right?
80 to 120.
80 to 120, something like that? Okay. That's a good number, right? Okay, so I'm going to take my suction catheter, I'm going to attach it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to advance it down, yeah, and into the trach, all right? And then I'm going to go ahead and occlude so I can suck. Oh, wait a second. What happened to my suction? Kind of high up there, huh? So this is kind of causing some trauma. So when we're checking the suction, we have to close the circuit to actually figure out what it is. Does that make sense? All right. So I would turn this way down, hold my finger over. I want it to be that when I hold my finger over it, that it's down around 80 to 120. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? In the simulation lab, I showed you guys the poles have power at all times, so if you want to cut the suction on, you just do it like that. In here and in 160, they have to be turned on, these head units. These ones have buttons on the side, these on the right hand side of each one of them. In 160, it's like a hot tub timer. Turn the dial. You guys don't know. Some of you do, some of you have no idea about the hot tub timer. Okay. It's alright. But there's a dial, just twist it, and then it has power. Okay. It will not have any suction when you put your finger over it, if there are holes up here. So you just have to look and cap whatever holes are there. Okay? It will not have suction if it's not connected to the motor, right? Or connected up here. Does that make sense? I mean, I know you guys are laughing, but somebody's gonna be like, hey, it's not working. I'm gonna walk over and be like, you gotta turn it on. Things like that happen. It's okay. Alright. So you have 2 kits with you, right? Let's see. Okay. I'll replace it. It's very difficult. But reading is essential. You asked me to do it?
We have one question. We only have one of these, so.
You only have one of these. So this is only ear checkup. Today only. You're going to do this 3 times. Once you're done, you're going to throw it away and you're done. You have 2 of these, though, right?
Yeah.
I thought I think I have 2 of both. I do too.
Oh, wait, never mind.
But today and today only. Unless you just don't get it done, then we can do it in open lab time. Suction is what we're going to check you out. Cool? Everybody okay with that? I can add another check off if you want.
No, we're okay.
Okay. I decreased it to 1 this time. I mean, but if you guys want. Alright. Care, cleaning, okay? We're going to set up the mannequins and I'll do this in a little bit. But when you look in here, there's a sterile glove, okay, because there is a inner cannula to these tracheostomy tubes. I will bring one in here. a little bit. But the way that it works is there is a cannula that goes from the neck in, okay? And then there's an inner cannula that keeps it stiff, alright? The old school, which you will not see unless you go work at the VA and you find somebody that's had trach for 30 years, you know, was that we replace it. The new style is we throw the inner cannula away. So you just take the old one out. I'll show you what to do with it. You take a little bit of hydrogen peroxide, a little bit of water, you clean it out. That's why this tray is set up like this. Okay, see how it's got little bends? You do your hydrogen peroxide and water, and then you water, and you kind of put the inner cannula in here and clean it and clean it. Obviously, the last thing is to touch it because there are water that goes back in, right? Hydrogen peroxide kills cells. Yeah. Alright, we don't want to cause damage. So if we are reusing the inner cannula, then we need to clean it, okay? You're not gonna reuse the inner cannula. They always have, like, one of you maybe might reuse one. PD patients sometimes with like congenital issues or something like that, they might have a reusable trach. But for the most part, the trachs that you guys are gonna see are gonna be in an acute care setting and they're throwaways, okay? Square ties, trach ties, I'll show you how to do a square knot, okay? How many of y'all have seen this? Yeah, this is mostly EMS securing an ET tube very quickly, you know. For the most part, we moved away from these over into the Velcro straps. I'll show you those as well. But I will show you how to do a square knot to hold it in place. Do I expect you to remember? No, not really. But I'm gonna show it to you and then I'll give you a video link that you guys can review. You can go home and practice this as much as you want. There are two types of 4x4s. You have fenestrated and unfenestrated. So when you look, it's like just a regular square, right? No holes in it, okay? Versus this one, kind of like a bib, okay? When we replace this, we put it up like this. So that the slit is up. Does that make sense? Stuff drains down. Cool. When we put this on, when we tie it on or put any ties around anybody's neck, what are the rules? How tight do we roll? You know?
2 fingers.
Want it nice and loose, like a tie? 2 fingers. 2 fingers. Dogs, right? Just like a dog. 2 fingers in there. That way if it swells, you know, people's necks do swell, right? So you always want to check this and make sure that it didn't go on, and then you hit them with 2 liters of fluid, or, you know, they need to be dialyzed or something like that. You see what I'm saying? Make sure you can always put 2 fingers in there at all times. This is a pipette, so that you can clean the inside of the inner cannula, not so that you can take out the inner cannula and clean the inside of the outer cannula and asphyxiate the patient while you're doing it. You don't want to do that, okay? You have a ton of these bad boys to scrub off crusties, you know? Yeah, it does get crusty, okay. And then we got some pipe cleaners as well. So, I will show you how to do all that. You don't need to do that probably in real practice, but you are going to be changing trach ties, changing out the inner cannula, and changing the gauze underneath. Probably every single shift on a person that's trached, and if it's a fresh trach, you're going to do it a lot more frequently. When you're doing all this stuff, you need to set it somewhere. So you have a sterile drape. You guys remember the rules on sterile drapes?
Can we touch the outer one edge?
Stay it wrapped all over your friend and all that? No. Outside 1 inch is dirty, so you can touch the outside 1 inch. And then there's 2 sides. One side is shiny, one is not.
Shiny is the sterile.
Which side up, which side down?
Shiny down.
Shiny side.
I thought shiny was sterile.
The whole thing is sterile. The outside 1 inch is not sterile because it's dirty, because bugs can jump. Think about like fleas and bed bugs and scabies and all that. It jumps 1 inch. Okay. Shiny down. Why? Because like a bug pad, yeah, the shiny side is like plastic, right? It's not going to absorb anything. The non-shiny side is like paper. It's the absorbent side. That make sense? Cool. So we would put that on their chest. That way we can work right here. Sound good? Okay. Sterile gloves. You guys remember how to put on sterile gloves? Yes? No?
Questionable.
Sort of.
Can you read them?
We will practice this every time somebody's like, no, I have no idea, but I've watched first semester show you guys how to do this. All right, so just so you guys know,
Last skill.
the last skill, right before you come in the second semester.
Yeah, right before the summer.
Right before the summer. Or the
Give us
Christmas
all
break,
this
right?
months off.
It's like, oh, the Christmas break's only a month. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure they won't be drinking a lot during, you know. Reading is essential. Cuff end, right? I'm the cuff end. It even has an arrow pointing to me, right? Cool? So I point it towards me, and then look, the way these are set up is anatomically. And then everybody's like, oh, my paper folds back in. So take it, and you kind of pull the heck out of it. And it stays open, and then doesn't just keep folding over. We don't have to feel bad for you as it folds over and you're sweating, and you're like, oh my God, what do I do? All right, hands, palms up. These gloves are sitting in there just like this. Do not reach over, right? So it needs to be waist high. Don't turn your back on it, all that good stuff, okay? But just remember, the gloves are sitting in here just like this. When you reach over to do all this kind of funny stuff, you're gonna put the wrong glove on the wrong hand, and your thumb's gonna come up with pinky hole, and then you're gonna be totally screwed, okay? So, when you grab the glove, it is folded over. I wanna show you. This, see this piece, is gonna be in contact with my skin. I can touch this piece. I cannot touch above here, because it's not gonna be in contact with my skin. Does that make sense? I'm gonna touch other things with that. Alright, so, work the thumb in, work your little fingers in, do the jellyfish thing. Don't pull it too hard, pull down, beat it over. Cool? Okay, now, take the other one. Pick it up underneath the cuff. This is where I touch with my hand, right? So then, I'm going to go ahead and thumb up. And same kind of deal. Cool? Easy peasy. If you're sweaty and you're pulling real hard, slow down. If you pull it in, I don't know if I can get back off, but you type. If you come up and you're like, sometimes you guys will do stuff like this, you know, you're like, oh no, I got a flopper, you know, and you're like, ah. You can touch the outside of the glove, right? And you can just kind of sit there and work it on. And then some of y'all will get like here, you know, like, hold on. We'll kind of get to this and you're sweaty and you're like, screw it, it's good enough, right? The problem is that like the ends are gonna touch something, you know what I mean? So, what do?
Can you just like pinch it in the middle and?
Yeah, you can try and work it and then you're like, oh no, what do I do? Hey, what are you gonna do during your checkoff? You wanna stop and go get a new pair of gloves, right? Because the whole point is we're checking off to see that you are safe in the hospital setting. What are you gonna do when you tear the glove? Well, I'm gonna stop and get another pair of gloves on. You know what I mean? And that's what I would do, because that's what I do in real life. So you're gonna verbalize. Some instructors may say, go ahead and put on another pair. And you guys are gonna talk and you're gonna say, oh, God, he made me put on a second pair. And they're going to be like, really? I just had to verbalize it. Well, it kind of depends on what happens, right? Like, if you're showing us that you can mostly get it, except for right now I know that you're super sweaty and that was the problem, then I'm probably going to be like, okay, just verbalize. If you're showing me that you're probably not able to get on gloves, then I'm going to have you do it a second time. Does that make sense? Don't feel bad. Sometimes things happen, okay? It's like, oh God, he told me to put on a second pair, you know? That's okay. Right now she's like, you tore up my kit. Alright. Suction catheter. I want to show you. The clean and care kit had a bunch of pieces, right? On the suction, now honestly, when you open these things up, you don't want to, that was one comment I got was like, oh, when they open stuff up, they kind of like do it crazy, like they're like tearing it, you know, and it's all over the place. You don't want to do that. You want to very carefully pull away from you, right, and keep everything in the kit. Okay, but in this kit it has 3 pieces. You're going to leave it in here, okay? All right, don't take it out. I just want to show you. So 3 pieces. It has gloves. Has a box. It's got a catheter. Don't touch the catheter until you're ready to go, okay? By that I mean sterile gloves on, patient's ready, okay? Now, if I'm gonna suction, I'm gonna go ahead and suction and change the gauze and change everything all at one time. Why? Why do I wanna do it all at one time? No, cause there's 6 patients and I got a million things to do and this shit has already taken a while, right? So if I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna group it together so I can go in there and get it all done at one time. I go in, if I just need to suction cause I've already cleaned it, that's one thing. But for the most part, you're gonna go in and suction, just go ahead and clean them up, you know, cause you're suctioning out secretions, right? They're in there breathing and they're like, you know, and they sound terrible, right? And they're desatting and all this other stuff. So they've probably been coughing some mucus out, so this is all gonna look nasty anyway. Might as well clean it at the same time. So you go in there, you suction them first, right? And you clean it. Suction them to rescue them first. Don't go in there and be like, well, let me go ahead and change out the gauze, change out the ties, and there's them, you know? Make sense? Okay, all right. When we look at the cup, all right, when you look at the cup, it's going to look, hold on, let me just, like this, and you're gonna say, well, which side is up? See how there's kind of some plastic up here, right? And if you actually look at the bottom, you'll see that there's no plastic covering the bottom, okay? We're gonna put water in here. And the reason that we're gonna put water in here is so that we can clear the suction catheter, because we're gonna take out thick, nasty secretions that we have to suck out into this little bitty tube. It's gonna get clogged up too. We gotta clean it out with the water. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We might have to go down more than once. So we want it to be clean and clear so that it works the second time. We don't want to put our grubby fingers all over our sterile water container. That makes sense? So when you pick this thing up, the way that it's sitting in there, just look at it, and where the paper side is, you touch, you set it down, okay? When we pour water in, pour it on, done. Cool? Okay, all right.
Also the writing.
The writing is the right way up. You would be amazed though, okay? All right, so the writing is the right way up. Keep my fingers down below. All right, so I got my gloves on, I got my water in here, I got everything set up. I'm gonna suction. When I pull this thing out, okay, it's super long. Is somebody's trachea this long?
No.
Sure? Okay, don't tickle their belly button. You can't get there anyway, okay? So you do wanna go in, how long? What does your sheet say? Yeah, about a half a centimeter past the end of the trach, right? And you're gonna see, I'll show you guys, but they're about like 8 centimeters long. So you really should not be going down. Sometimes nurses just go in and they go down until they meet resistance, right? What's the problem with that? What is the resistance that they're running into, probably?
Lung.
The carina, where it splits, right? It's very simple, okay? I'm one for wordplay a little bit, all right? It is the split in the bronchi, right? Big main bronchus comes down and splits down into 2, yeah? Right in the middle, right where it splits, that's the carina. I can't think of anything else that comes down and splits into 2. Sounds like carina. Okay.
Which is perfect because a little gauze is like 2 little legs.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Yeah.
Legs up, right? All right, so here's the thing, is you're gonna go half a centimeter past that. If you keep pushing this down until you meet resistance, you're banging onto that carina, it's gonna get sore, it's gonna bleed, okay? All right, and it's gonna just get torn up and ulcerated, so you don't wanna do that. But a lot of nurses, you'll see them, they just go in and they go all the way down. You're just trying to get the gunk off the end of the tracheostomy tube. Does that make sense? Okay. When you're doing all this, right, like it flops all over the place, you do not want it touching things. This is going into their airway, right? So when I take it out, I have my sterile gloves on. All right, I take it out of the package very carefully. I wrap it around my hand so that I have control of it. Cool? That way I can unravel it as I advance. And you're gonna sit there and you're gonna practice kind of advancing, you know, and then pulling it back. All right, now, with the suction, I have my sterile gloves on, I touched it, this hand is no longer sterile, but I have to touch it so that I can connect it. Does that make sense? Okay? When you connect it, you push, okay? And then you get your hand away from the connector because 1 inch, right? This is all non-sterile at this point. Does
Wait,
that
are you
make sense?
left-handed?
No, I can do it both ways at all. I shouldn't say that. Anyway, alright, so anyway. Just don't think. Alright, left hand, alright. Usually you're gonna use your dominant hand, alright. And so you just wanna advance, again, half a centimeter past the end of the trachea. So it's about 10 centimeters, and I'll show you, okay? You go in with your thumb up, right? It's like, I'm going in, and they're like, I'm going in, thumbs up, good job, you're going in, right? And everybody's like, yeah, good job, and you shove it down there, and they're like, you know, and then you put your thumb over the suction catheter, right, and it's gonna suck, and it's gonna, and as you suck, how do we do it? Continuous or intermittent? Or, what does it say? Continuous in a circular motion, so you're kind of getting all of it on the way out, right? So you go down, thumbs up, no suction, right? And you apply continuous suction, and you remove in a circular motion. How long do I suction for? So again, if we were kind of thinking about being at the car wash, washing your car, next time you guys go over there, why don't you take that vacuum, right? Just put it on your mouth for like 15 seconds. It's a little bit much. Okay. Whatever you guys want. So if you go with intermittent, it can increase the pressure a little bit and help a little bit. Now, again, here's kind of the goal. Not more than 10 to 15 seconds. Because hold your breath when you're doing this, and you're going to be uncomfortable, but you're also got a tube in their airway sucking the air out. So that 10 seconds is going to feel like a really long time. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, so I do it one time. Alright, cool. And they're like, oh. I'm like, cool. You need me to do it again. While I'm doing that, I'm suctioning water to clear the line. Right? And they're like, yeah, one more time. Alright, cool. Here we go. In, thumbs up, no suction, coming out. Ah, perfect. It's great. Thank you so much. You saved my life. Right? What you're not going to do is you're not going to walk in and be like, do you need me to suction you? Right? Why are you not going to do that? Read through the very first couple of steps for me. I just
Okay,
want
do you need to listen to their lung sounds and assess if they need to be suction?
Good, good, I like that. So what are the first couple steps? What does it say? Identify the patient, something like that? You guys see that part? Hey, what's your name? Date of birth? They have a trach, unless they know how to talk, right? And also they're in distress. Not only do they have a trach, they're in distress, so they're not gonna be like holding it up, like, John's, I can't breathe. You know what I'm saying? So you can actually just look at the wristband. But you guys will always walk in and want to say, hey, can you tell me your name and date of birth? It's part of that critical thing. Cool? So everybody's gonna double check the wristband themselves, I guess the chart, and all that good stuff. Now, patients can talk with trachs. I don't wanna give you the idea that they can't. If they have a fast mirror valve, or they've learned the skill to hold their breath and talk out while they're doing it. That's a learned skill. Okay, just like you learned how to talk, with trach you gotta relearn. Cool? What other questions do we have?
Would you have them sitting like all the way up in like high dollars?
What do you think?
Yes.
I think it's a good idea to set them up.
Well, I know sitting them up, I just didn't know if it's like that.
Semi or high?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
semi
you can go
or high.
semi or high. I mean, either way, as long as they're sitting up, I just wouldn't have them flat, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, patients, okay, again, you're talking about a patient that's respiratory compromised at this point. I'm coming in to do this because they're not satting well, right? So, whether or not they can tolerate being moving. You see what I'm saying? Usually people will be okay with sitting up higher. Usually, okay. But sometimes there's a blood pressure issue going on with it, and so you sit them up, the blood pressure tanks, you know? Again, I told you guys, nursing is black and white except for we live in gray, you know? So everything is case specific. So if somebody was in, everybody's in semi-Fowlers anyway, right? Nobody in the hospital is laying down flat. Everybody
They
agree?
just had a heart cath. Heart cath?
What are you guys?
Hip
You guys-
surgery.
Yeah, okay, all right. Let's see.
Is that
Alright,
book
but
smart?
everybody is semi-Fowlers unless they had a heart cath, hip surgery, blah, 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 okay, alright. Alright, so, if I can sit them up higher, I will, right? If they're having respiratory distress, you walk in, you're like, oh, they're not breathing so well. So I start sending them up. If I start sending them up, blood pressure goes down. I'm like, no, that's good enough for me, you know? And then we just go from there. Cool? Let's go into 160. Bring your only thing you need to bring with you